Discover 5 spine-chilling true stories unveiled in the rain. Sinister tales from the haunted dark. The storm raged outside, a cacophony of howling wind and stabbing rain. Lily huddled on the couch, a barricade of blankets around her, and her 2 children, Mia and Jake, who were squeezed close, their small bodies trembling. The atmosphere crackled with static tension, as if the storm was a living thing. Each boom of thunder sent chills crawling up her spine, but the soothing rhythm of raindrops against the windows almost lulled her into a false sense of security, until her phone buzzed, shattering the moment. The bright screen illuminated her face, revealing an impossible alert. A girl from Mia's school was missing. Panic gripped her heart. "Mama, is she okay?" Mia whispered, her tiny voice quivering with fear. Lily swallowed hard, trying to keep her voice steady as she reassured her daughter. "I'm sure she's fine, sweetie," she said, forcing a smile. But dread had crept in, gnawing at her gut. She glanced toward the window, and her eyes widened at a silhouette just beyond the glass. A tall, dark figure darting past, followed by a murmur that made her blood run cold. "Mommy," Jake whimpered, hardly louder than a whisper. She shushed him, her heart racing, searching for a logical explanation. Panic rose further as memories of Mr. Thompson flooded her mind. The neighbor everyone admired for his charity work, yet was now at the center of whispered suspicions? Hadn't he been seen wandering in this very storm? Each thought sent shivers skittering down her spine. She shot up, locking the front and back doors, her fingers trembling as she turned the deadbolts. "Stay close," she commanded, trying to keep calm. The shadows of the room grew darker. Distorted shapes danced as the lights flickered, finally succumbing to the thunderous storm, plunging them into darkness. But the generator hummed to life, casting a sickly glow across the dim room. Just then, a loud ring of the doorbell echoed through her, breaking the tense silence like a gunshot. Who could be out there? The storm was merciless, and everyone sensible was indoors. She hesitated, glancing back at her children. "Mommy, don't open it!" Mia's voice was a raw plea. Breath caught in her throat. She crept towards the peephole, heart slamming against her ribs. A figure, shrouded in rain-soaked darkness, stood there, faintly familiar. They seemed to be a blur of memories, always around, at town hall meetings, school functions, or even lighting up her backyard during the annual block party. Her stomach twisted in fear. The wailing of sirens fought through the storm, fading faster than a heartbeat. "What's wrong?" she thought, dredging up thoughts of the disappearances that plagued their town. She grabbed her phone, but the screen froze, mocking her desperation. Was she losing her mind? Or worse, did anyone care enough to believe her? Out in the storm, a crash reverberated through the house, snapping her resolve. "Lily?" A chilling voice echoed from the depths of the gathering. "Shadows. I'm here to help." The words slithered through the air, laced with an unwelcoming familiarity. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Her heart pounded, the enormity of the moment crashing through her. The weight of fear threatened to suffocate her as shadows crept closer, twisting and curling around her, each echo of thunder merging with her racing pulse. What could be lurking behind that voice? She gripped the doorframe, body trembling, reality twisting into a nightmare. Was this how it ended, with a choice to step into darkness or retreat into the storm? As the wind howled and the whispers grew louder, she stepped forward, daring to confront the truth behind the fear. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a silhouette drenched in rain, face obscured but eyes shining with an unsettling familiarity. The air felt heavier, thick with anticipation and primal fear. "Lily," the figure said again, voice low and smooth, as if wrapping itself around her like the storm outside. "Mama!" Jake cried, clinging to her leg, terror painted across his small face. "Stay back!" Lily shouted, instinct taking over as she pushed her children behind her. She peered into the rain-soaked shadow, trying to make sense of it. Could it truly be him? The man everyone called a decent citizen? Mr. Thompson, the one who made pies for community events and mowed lawns for the elderly. "Please," he said, hands raised in mock surrender. "I know you're scared. I want to help you." Lily's breath hitched. Help? From him? Thoughts raced as the recent whispers came flooding back. Strange noises at night, odd shadows moving across the street, and the missing girl. The protective warmth of her home shrunk around her as an icy fear took hold. "Help us?" she scoffed, her voice sharp with accusation. "Is that what you call it?" A flash of lightning illuminated his face for a brief moment, and she saw something dark lurking in his eyes. Hunger, maybe. "You don't understand," he replied, voice a tight wire ready to snap. "There are things happening out there you can't comprehend." Jake whimpered again, pressing his tiny frame against Lily's leg. She felt the warmth of his panic radiate through her, a chilling reminder of her duty to protect them both. "What do you want?" she hissed, barely able to keep the quiver from her voice. "It's not what I want, it's what they want." He leaned closer, the rain splattering against his skin, droplets creating an unnatural rhythm as he spoke. "They're watching you. They've come." "For you. Let me in, and I can keep you safe." "Safe?" Mia whimpered, eyes wide. "He's a liar!" Lily's heart raced like a trapped bird, instinct driving her to compute the unfathomable situation. If she let him in, would it mean safety, or would it open the floodgates to horrors she couldn't even begin to imagine? But outside, the storm wailed, as if warning her about the man in the darkness, the lies nestled beneath his smooth words. Suddenly, there was a violent crash from outside, shattering the fragile tension. The windows rattled, and a low growl echoed through the storm, primal and feral. Lily didn't know whether it was thunder or something else entirely. The air grew thick, pressing against her chest like a weight. "Get back!" she shouted, thrusting her body in front of her children, resolve forming like iron in her core. "Mommy," Mia whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. "I'm scared." "That makes two of us," Lily murmured, teeth gritted. She stared hard at Mr. Thompson, his dark figure a mere outline against the chaos outside. "What do you mean they want? What are you talking about?" "Turn around, and you'll see," he sneered, his voice dripping with malice, unraveling the words into something sinister. The children gasped. Heart pounding, Lily turned slowly, hand clutching the door tightly, dread wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. Outside, beyond the storm, shapes moved among the trees, shifting, blending into the shadows. They were watching, she could feel it. Then the figures stepped closer into the scant light. Their faces were twisted, distorted features glimmering with raindrops. Lily's breath caught as panic gripped her again. This couldn't be happening. Suddenly, a floodlight from nearby flickered on, and she saw them clearly. The children, the missing girl. Her heart sunk, panic and despair colliding in a violent crescendo. What did they want with her family? The shadows grew longer as reality started to fracture, echoing the storm's fervor. Lily turned back to Mr. Thompson, whose smile twisted deeper into a mocking grin. In that moment of stark clarity, the choice hung heavy in the air. The stark truth loomed. Safety was no longer guaranteed. "What's coming is far worse," he whispered. Lily had to choose. But was there a way out at all? As the wind howled violently around them, she knew one thing. The night had only just begun. The world outside pulsed with a raw, chaotic energy. Lily felt it in her bones, the echo of footsteps from unseen figures, close yet untouchable. She squinted through the rain-soaked darkness, each drop a reminder of the fear drenching her heart. The children clung to her, eyes wide with terror, but their presence only fueled the gnawing dread. "Let me in," Mr. Thompson urged, his voice slicing through the storm like a knife. "Who are you?" Lily demanded, terror and defiance clashing within her. "What do you know about them?" He glanced over his shoulder, unease flickering across his features. "They're here for you, all of you." His eyes narrowed, pupils dilating in the dim light. "And if you don't trust me, then you're only making it worse." A soft whimper escaped Mia's lips. She pressed against Lily, warmth giving way to cold sweat. The world outside shifted, shadows dancing along the tree line like twisted marionettes in a macabre show. Those faces, the children, they seemed to beckon, hollow eyes filled with longing. "They're not just here to watch," Thompson continued, his grin widening, jagged and sharp. "They want to take you to their world. It's beautiful there, and filled with everything you've ever wanted. But no one comes back." Lily's stomach churned, the very air growing fetid with his words. "No one," she echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. She struggled to comprehend the revelation gripping her heart. Could it be true? Were those faces among the trees glimpses into a reality she so desperately wanted to ignore? The thunder crashed overhead, shaking her stance, and in that moment she made her decision. "We're not going anywhere with you," she shouted, the weight of her motherly resolve pouring from her like molten steel. Thompson's face soured into a scowl. "You don't get it, do you? They'll take you anyway. I can help you fend them off." Lily felt a presence, thick and looming, like a shadow creeping closer. "What do I have to do?" she snapped, knowing deep down she was already losing control. "Just let me in, Lily," he roared, desperation bubbling to the surface as his hand dropped from the air. The rain began to intensify, and with it the whispering wind surged as if echoing his plea, carrying the voices of those lost. The door trembled in her grip. She could almost feel the cold touch of those figures swarming outside. With a deep breath, she turned her head to the side and caught a fleeting glimpse of the twisted faces emerging from the undergrowth. They were closer now, their movements unnatural, a sickly sway that made her skin crawl. "Mama," Jake cried, voice trembling. "What are they?" Wrenching her gaze back to Thompson, Lily saw panic dancing across his normally placid features. They're almost here," he said, laughter tinged with madness bubbling in his throat. "You have to let me in, or it's over." "Over?" Mia whimpered. "Mommy." The shadows convulsed, pulling at the edges of the light, and Lily's heart raced with a furious beat. How can I trust you? She screamed over the cacophony, torn between the wild fear that propelled her to protect her children and the irrefutable temptation of escape. Thompson leaned in closer, his voice now a whisper, smooth and insidious. Because if you don't, they'll take them before you know it. Then a shriek sliced through the storm, sharp and piercing. Lily's blood ran cold as the figures took a step forward, faces filled with a dark hunger. She could see their mouths moving, but all she could hear was the echo of her own heartbeat. "Stay back!" she yelled, their advance forcing instinct into every fiber of her. But still, the door was open, and the storm raged on, relentless and unforgiving. Was there a way to save her family, or was she destined to let them slip through her fingers? In that instant, an electrifying silence fell over them, a moment where even the wind dared not speak. The choice loomed large, and she felt the oppressive weight leaning against her mind. What would happen if she closed the door, to the unknown, or to the danger waiting just beyond it? Lily stood frozen, her breath fogging in the chilly air, every second stretching into infinity. The shadowy figures paused, their monstrous shapes stark against the flicker of lightning. She wanted to scream, to run, but her feet felt glued to the ground. The shrieks echoed behind her, distorted and agonizing. "Lily!" Thompson's voice broke through her paralysis, frantic now. "Think, let me in, and I can save them, I swear." The children pressed against her, trembling like leaves caught in a storm. She locked eyes with Jake, whose innocent gaze cut through the swirling terror. No, she couldn't abandon him, not ever. But what if Thompson was telling the truth? What if rejecting him meant doom? "Listen," he insisted, desperation clawing at him. "They're already asking me to take you, all of you. It'll be too late if you wait any longer." A low growl rose from the forest, vibrating through the bones in her hands. The faces shifted, gliding forward, as if drawn by an unseen string. Their eyes glinted with an unsettling hunger that made her skin crawl. She could feel the pressure of 1,000 unseen eyes, devouring her every move. "Lily!" Thompson's tone turned urgent, laced with a sickly sweetness that only heightened her fears. "Do you really think you can protect them here, with them waiting just outside?" Tears pricked her eyes, and she breathlessly clung to her children. "I won't let you use them to scare me," she shouted back, though her voice trembled. "Fine. Then what will you do?" he replied, a smirk creeping across his lips, jagged and cruel. "Just watch them die?" A flash of lightning illuminated the grotesque faces. Lily's heart lurched as she saw a reflection of herself in their hollow eyes. The connection pierced her, cold like ice, and she stumbled backward, a primal instinct urging her to close the door. That moment felt electric, as if the entire world held its breath, waiting for her decision. But what awaited her beyond the door? The unknown haunted her more than his twisted words. "Mama!" Mia's voice broke through the chaos, filled with raw fear. "I'm scared." "Stay close," Lily commanded, unintentionally sounding more desperate than reassuring. As the child's small hand slipped into hers, the shadows lunged. They twisted and extended fingers, long, claw-like, each movement lashed with malicious intent. "Now!" Thompson shouted, his voice rising to a fever pitch. "You have to trust me." "This isn't trusting," she cried, the weight of their lives crashing against her. "This is surrendering." At that moment, the whispers grew louder, frenzied. They called to her, promising solace, love, joy, everything she had ever longed for. Shadows darted closer, curling around her ankles like creeping vines. They took on human form, innocent faces of her past, and she realized with horror they were all familiar.
"Jake!" she screamed, pulling him into her arms. "Don't let go!" The figures surged forward, hungry, eager, and unyielding. The ground beneath her felt alive, a living entity pulling her towards darkness. "If you close the door, it might just seal your fate." Thompson's voice drilled into her mind, and his eyes shone with an unsettling light. Lily's heart raced. The noise reached a deafening crescendo, clawing at her composure. She could already see the outlines of the trees shifting closer, consuming the darkness, the storm beating with wrath, yearning for a decision. The door loomed behind her, a warping threshold to salvation or madness. The children were clung to her with desperation, and her own mind spiraled into chaos. Time split like fractured glass, every second teetering on the edge of a gut-wrenching choice. In one last breath, she pushed the door as far as it could go, eyes darting back to the grotesque being swirling on the threshold. What will it be, Lily? Will she enter the sanctuary or plunge into darkness? Thunder rolled overhead, and in that moment she could only wonder. Would her decision be the salvation she hoped for, or the abyss she feared? Lily's fingers hesitated on the door's edge, the weathered wood cold beneath her touch. Time seemed to freeze, the air thick with a tension that clawed at her insides. The shadows surged, alive with hunger and desperation, and she felt the pull of the nightmare luring her to join them. But behind her, the fragile breaths of her children anchored her, reminding her of what was at stake. "Mommy, please," Mia whimpered, her small voice quivering with terror. Jake shook, clutching her leg, his bright eyes filled with unshed tears. "Don't let them take us!" The figures distorted in the storm, slipping through the raindrops like oil spreading over water. They looked so familiar, faces from her faded memories, friends long gone. Each one whispered a name, a plea, a promise that twisted the edges of her mind. But they were not here to save her. They were here to drag her under, into their cold embrace. "You trust the shadows over me?" Thompson's voice dripped with mockery. He watched her, his eyes glowing like embers in a dying fire. "I can give you everything you ever lost. You just have to allow it." The sincerity in his tone challenged Lily, making her question everything she thought she knew. The whispers grew louder, an eerie chorus that bid her to slip into that dark embrace. She felt dizzy, panic clawing at her throat. "No!" she yelled, shaking her head violently. "You're lying!" But doubt nagged at her, clawed at her heart. "Do you even know what they want, Lily?" Thompson pressed on, his voice now low, almost soothing. "They want you because you have so much more to offer. Just imagine a world where they are in control. You think this storm is bad? You have no idea." The fingers of the shadows grazed her ankles, sharp and cold as ice. Mia started to wail, a sound that propelled the fear straight into Lily's heart. What was out there? Was it worse than what stood before her? The door loomed, begging to be closed, either sealing them away from the horrors or trapping them within it. She clenched her fists, balancing on a knife's edge, torn between the terror of the shadows and the unknown that waited behind the door. "Make a choice!" Thompson's voice shook with adrenaline. "You want to fight? They will hunt you down. Or you can come to me with open arms." Lily took a shaky step back, her heart pounding like a war drum. "I can protect them! I will!" She echoed her own fierce determination, though uncertainty nestled within. The dark figures twisted closer, voices rising in a maddening shriek. She felt the walls of her sanity crumbling as reality twisted. Thunder rumbled above, a harbinger of chaos, a reminder of the looming storm. And then, just as the force of the darkness threatened to consume her, she remembered something deep within that clung to hope. "Jake! Mia!" She turned to them, her heart racing. "Whatever happens, whatever comes, we stick together, always." As if fueled by this promise, a flicker of warmth surged in her chest. The growing tide of shadows wobbled, their grasp faltering as she faced the door. The storms outside roared, trees swayed ominously, and within her a resolve ignited. With a fierce push of heart and will, she flung open the door and stepped inside. But the moment she crossed the threshold, the laughter of the shadows morphed into howls of rage. A promise of retribution echoed through the air. The ground shook, and the shadows crashed against the door like an angry tide. They were not ready to let her go. Panic ignited once more as the door slammed shut behind them, sealing the terrors on the other side. Had she escaped their grasp, or merely sealed a new fate? Lily's breath quickened. The darkness flickered and teased behind the door, but what awaited them inside? Turning slowly to face the vast unknown that sprawled before her, Lily realized the horrors might have just begun. What acceptance lay ahead, and what secrets would unravel in the shadows of this new sanctuary? The silence was thick, almost suffocating. It pressed down on Lily like a heavy blanket, weighted with uncertainty. She squinted into the dim light, trying to make sense of her surroundings. The room they had entered was a relic of a time long past. Walls draped in peeling wallpaper, faded colors that spoke of forgotten histories, secrets buried beneath layers of dust. "Mommy, it's dark," Jake's voice quivered, and Lily took a step closer to him. She felt Mia's tiny hand cling to her leg, their warmth a fleeting comfort against the encroaching cold. "Stay close," she whispered, trying to mask her own fear. The air was stale, stagnant, like it hadn't been breathed in years. Lily moved deeper into the room, her eyes scanning for a source of light. The weak glow from the outside storm barely pierced through the grimy windows. Shadows danced corner to corner, swirling around like whispers from long-abandoned spirits, taunting her with their ephemeral ghost-like forms. "Look!" Mia pointed, her voice rising in both excitement and fear. A flicker of movement caught Lily's eye, something shifting in the far corner. It was a tall wooden wardrobe, its door ajar. The mere sight of it sent a shiver down Lily's spine. "What's in there, Mommy?" "I don't know, sweetheart. Let's not get too close." But the whispers grew louder, almost insistent, wrapping around her thoughts, gnawing at her mind. "Open it. You know you want to." Lily's heart raced. Why did she feel this strange compulsion? There was something about the wardrobe, something familiar and dangerous. "Mommy, I'm scared," Jake murmured. Lily knelt down, trying to meet her children's gaze. "I know, babe, but we have to be brave. We can't let fear decide for us." It was a desperate attempt to infuse strength into her words, though inside, fear clawed and scraped at her resolve. "Can we just leave?" Mia's voice trembled.
"No, not yet," she replied, her voice steadying as if to reassure herself. The storm outside raged harder, branches scraping against the roof, echoing like the desperate cries of enraged souls. "Just a little peek," the shadows seemed to whisper, swirling around the wardrobe. "You want to know. You have to know." Finally, her will cracked as she approached the wardrobe. The air grew charged, thick as molasses, and with each step, dread flooded her heart. She placed her trembling hand against the rough wood, cold and unyielding. Why was she hesitating? What lurked inside? With a deep breath, she gripped the door and pulled it open. The hinges creaked, a chilling protest through the silence, and darkness yawned back at her, deep and endless like a void. It smelled of mildew, long-lost secrets waiting to be uncovered. Then she saw it, a reflection in the dark, faint but unmistakable. A face stared back at her, pale and gaunt, eyes wide and sunk deep within their sockets. It couldn't be. The likeness was too uncanny, too painful. "Mama?" Jake's voice broke through her shock, pulling her back into the moment. Lily stepped back, heart pounding. "No, it can't be." Panic surged as she slammed the wardrobe door shut. She looked at her children, wide-eyed and scared. Whatever that was, it wasn't real. But deep down, she felt the truth gnawing at her, a horror creeping closer. "Mommy, are we safe now?" Mia asked, trembling. I don't know." The uncertainty echoed through her like a taunt. Then a loud crash shattered the oppressive silence as something heavy fell in the room behind them.
Lily froze, fears shifting into overdrive. They were not alone. The echoes of laughter, mixed with whispers, seeped through the walls, rising like a tide, the storm outside fading into a haunting tune. It felt like the very air was alive with an urgency to reveal what lay hidden. Something was awakening in the darkness, and whatever it was, it had its sights on them. Lily's heart raced. "We have to find a way out, now!" As they turned to flee, the walls shuddered, their very foundation groaning in protest. Shadows slithered towards them, creeping closer. A voice, low and chilling, echoed around them. "You cannot run from your past, Lily." What awaited them next? Would her past consume her, or was there hope to grasp amidst the growing darkness? Lily spun around, her wide eyes darting to the door, which seemed to pulse with an eerie light beneath the cracks. The shadows grew bolder, wrapping around her like tendrils inching closer. She felt an icy finger trace the nape of her neck, sending tremors racing down her spine. "Mommy, please!" Jake cried, clutching her leg even tighter. "Stick together, don't let go," she ordered, forcing her voice to stay steady, even as the panic clawed at her throat. She was losing control. The heavy silence pulsed around them, shattered only by the whispers that crawled under her skin. Laughter echoed again, childlike, innocent, yet laced with malice. Shadows formed shapes on the walls, mocks of little bodies swaying in the gloom. They were playing with fear. "Go!" she shouted, her heart pounding like an alarm bell as she shoved the children toward the door. They stumbled but didn't hesitate. They hadn't asked where to, hadn't questioned her. They trusted her, even as she doubted if she deserved it. They darted towards the entrance, but the air thickened, anti-gravity, weightless, a force pushing against them. The door creaked, seemingly widening, but also pulling away. With a defiant kick, she sent her foot crashing against it. It didn't budge. The laughter grew louder as a grotesque ventriloquist's voice echoed from the shadows. "You can't leave, Lily. Stay and play with us." She turned, her heart thundering. Fear and fury collided inside her. "No, we're not staying here."
Mia's terrified gaze fixed on something behind her, wide and glassy, a reflection of light that shouldn't be there. "Mommy, look!" she squealed, pointing. Lily hesitated only for a heartbeat, but in that moment a sickening realization sank in, creeping like poison. Behind her, the wardrobe stood unnaturally still. It beckoned again. "Open me, Lily." The moment stretched, each second grappling her deeper into despair. Memories flooded back, resurfacing like bubbles pushing through mud. Fragments of laughter, whispers of secrets that should have remained buried. "Mommy!" Jake shouted again, breaking her reverie. "We need to go!" The walls creaked as if they understood. They were alive, reacting to her panic, squeezing tighter and tighter. She felt the walls lean in, pressing down, drowning her in despair. But Lily couldn't allow that. Not again. "Come on!" she barked, grabbing both kids by the hands and dragging them to the stairs that spiraled down into the murky darkness. But before they could race down, a sharp cry erupted. Mia's hand slipped from hers, and as Lily turned, she saw her daughter caught, twisted under unseen force. The shadows hissed, leaching out like a storm of insatiable darkness, swallowing the light. "No!" Lily screamed, lunging forward, but the shadows closed in like jaws. A split second of horror gripped her heart. She focused on Mia's terrified face, the innocence melting into dread. The walls roared and howled, a horrible cacophony. "You're too late, Lily. Time has already begun to twist." With a surge of strength she didn't know she had, Lily dove, pulling Mia from the grip of the shadows just as they tried to close around her. Dust exploded into the air as they fell back onto the floor, gasping and trembling. But as she pulled Mia close to her, another voice whispered, "You think you can save her. You will pay the price." The howling crescendoed, and Lily's blood ran cold. What price would she pay? The shadows moved like a swarm, closing in from every side. There was no escaping. Not from the voices, not from the past. Then, everything went black. Lily tried to recall the warmth of daylight, of safety. Where were they? Her mind flickered, locating that darkness. It was suffocating, and in that utter blackness, a single thought pierced through. What have I unleashed? As her eyes blinked open, she found herself standing in the very same room. The wardrobe pulsed softly, inviting. The whispers resumed, now more insistent. They were there, waiting. And from the darkness, she heard her children's voices echoing. "Mommy, where are you?" A cold shiver raced down her spine. Could she truly bring them back? What lay waiting for them beyond that wardrobe? Their salvation or their doom lurked just a breath away. Would she dare reveal what was hidden? Did darkness ever truly let go? The musty smell of the room enveloped her, thicker than the darkness. With disoriented movements, Lily scanned the familiar space, but everything seemed different. The once comforting walls felt ominous, like strangers in an old friend's disguise. Shadows flitted, dancing in the corners, and the whispers twisted around her like serpents. "Mommy, where are you?" "Here, I'm here," she cried, forcing her voice through the knots of fear, hoping her words would reach her children. She stumbled forward, desperately searching for them. Each step was met with an eerie silence, smothering any hope she clung to. "Mia! Jake!" Panic squeezed her chest, the pressure building like a weight she couldn't lift. But there was only the insatiable darkness swallowing their names, mocking her with empty echoes. As she moved deeper into the room, she felt the wardrobe's presence pulse in the air, vibrating like a heartbeat. The wood seemed alive, a dark entity waiting patiently. "Open me, Lily." Words slithered into her mind, almost seductive, promising answers and horrifying truths. No! She took a step back, instinctively pulling away, but curiosity gnawed at her resolve. What if they were trapped within? The thought twisted her gut, claws of desperation digging in deep. Her hands trembled as she crept closer. With a swift inhale, she grasped the cold brass knob. The latch clicked, resonating like thunder in the quiet as she swung the door wide. A wave of frost swept over her, sucking the warmth from the room. "Mommy!" The voices grew louder, emerging from the darkness like ghostly wisps. Tiny shadows materialized from the blackness, indistinct but undeniably real. A movement caught her eye, and she froze. "Mommy, we're scared!" A familiar voice, one that made her heart crack open, rang clear through the haze. "Help us!" "Mia? Jake?" Lily screamed. She lunged into the void, stretching her arms out, but just as she was about to grasp them, they twisted away, swallowed whole by the shadows. They were taunting her, pulling her children deeper into the abyss. "Please, I need you! Come back!" Her voice shattered into desperation, ringing hollow as the darkness consumed her. Then an icy wind whipped through the wardrobe, a frigid gust carrying a warning. The shadows shimmered, forming a silhouette, that grotesque laughter teasing her mind. "You think you can bring them back? They're gone, Lily, forever." "No!" A whimper escaped her lips, and with it came an unsettling realization. She was not just fighting for them. She was also fighting against her own allure to this darkness. It wanted her to succumb, to surrender to the sweet promise of forgetting her pain. Suddenly, the silhouette shifted, and a single child-sized figure emerged within. Pale, trembling, eyes sunken, Mia stood there, reaching out with thin hands. "Mommy, help us!" "Hold on!" Lily dashed forward, but the specter of shadows coiled around Mia, tightening like a noose. The fear in her daughter's eyes pierced through her heart, and the realization crashed over her like a wave. Whatever this was, darkness was no longer the only danger to her children. "Mia!" she screamed as she felt the icy fingers plunge into her skin, dragging her back, holding her hostage. "Let go of my kids!" With a roar of defiance, Lily fought against the forces pulling her, accelerating to break their grip. The whispers intensified, shrieking in a cacophonous battle against her heart. But as she wrestled with the shadows, everything came shattering down. A piercing voice echoed through the chaos. "You can't save them if you can't save yourself!" A blinding light erupted from the wardrobe, flooding the room with an intense brightness. As Lily shielded her eyes, she heard it again, her children's laughter. But this time it felt different, tainted by the very same shadows that threatened to engulf them all. She stumbled, blind, casting desperate glances around, grasping at air. "Where are you?" The light flickered, illuminating a twisted reflection in the wardrobe glass. Laughter echoed, but only one phrase clawed its way.
"Join us." Lily's heart raced. In that moment, fear didn't just creep in, an understanding settled. There was something so deeply wrong beneath the surface of everything she thought she knew. Where had they gone? What had they become? As reality slipped again into dark uncertainty, the voices rang with even greater intensity. "Join us, Lily, forever." The wardrobe beckoned with a sense of sinister familiarity, daring her to make her choice. Would she step into that darkness to save her family, or would she fall with them? The shadows loomed as she hesitated. The answer lurked on the edge of her breath, ready to take control. What awaited her inside? Lily's heart thundered in her chest as the light faded, swept away by the creeping darkness. Cold fingers brushed her skin, sending shivers down her spine. She waited, trapped in a desolate purgatory of yawning shadows. "What do you want from me?" she gasped, her voice barely a whisper. The laughter intensified, echoing wildly, growing in sinister harmony. "We want you to join us, Lily," a voice sang, syrupy and sweet, mixing sorrow with malice. "Truth," she croaked, trying to steady herself against the wardrobe, now a towering monolith, pulsating with an otherworldly energy. The shadows writhed greedily, keenly aware of her feeble resistance. The air grew thick, heavier with grief and terror. She thought of Jake and Mia, how desperately they needed her, and yet, as the darkness crept closer, so did an unsettling curiosity. What if the darkness held the key to their salvation? What if they were waiting just on the other side? "Mommy!" Mia's voice broke through the chilling air, but it was softer now, more distant. "Don't be afraid. We just want to play." "No, stay away from them." The shadows pulsed, angered by her resolve, but she clenched her fists, refusing to back down. If she couldn't find her strength in love, what would she find? "Play with us, Mommy," Jake's voice joined in, seductive and eerie. "It's fun. Here the games never end." She screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the night, a futile cry lost in an abyss of despair. The outline of the wardrobe shimmered, revealing fleeting images of her children, laughing and playing amidst shadows that twisted in impossible forms. No longer were their faces filled with innocence. They appeared chilled by the dark. Something almost unrecognizable flickered behind their eyes. "Join us," they urged together, pulling on her heart with an invisible thread, weaving despair into longing. "We've found peace. You can too." With each repeated phrase, the air shimmered, revealing snippets of her life, moments of joy, of love, of laughter, all reflected back at her with a sinister twist. The darkness was weaving a tapestry of memories, tinged with the smell of fear and loss. She recalled every time she had failed them, every moment she thought about letting go, and every whispered doubt she'd ever had about being enough. But was this what awaited her on the other side? "Join us," the shadows begged again, a cacophony of voices mingling with the echoes of her soul. "No!" she shouted defiantly, breaking through the thrumming chaos. "I will not abandon my children. I don't know what you want, but I won't give in." The atmosphere thickened, darkness swirling violently, crashing against her resolve. Shattered whispers coiled around her, snapping and crackling like thunder. "You're already lost, Lily. You always have been." "Get away from them!" she shouted once more, the sound echoing back at her with a mocking tone. She stepped away from the wardrobe, a decision settling in her bones. It was not the darkness that was her enemy. It was the acceptance of despair, of hopelessness that she must fight. But as she stood there, breathing heavily, she felt a pull, a tugging force attempting to drag her back. The flickering light around her dimmed, teasing her with a glimpse of what she feared she might lose forever. What must I do? The shadows stilled, their cool touch retracting, awaiting a response. The silence fell like a shroud, but within it, Lily sensed a terrible choice awaited her. Would she risk everything, stepping into the void to reclaim her children? Or would she forsake the darkness that promised solace in exchange for her soul? Suddenly, the whispers transformed into a warning. "Your time is running out, Lily. Choose wisely." With the weight of her heart in her throat, she faced the wardrobe once more, the question echoing in her mind. How much darkness was she willing to bear to save them? In the stillness, shadows coalesced into thin lines, forming a doorway of swirling nightmares. And just beyond it, she could hear them, her children, calling once more. "Lily, we're waiting." Would she step forward into the abyss, or would she turn away, fighting the darkness consuming her and her family? The choice hung in the air, pregnant with impossibility. What would she see if she stepped inside? Lily's heart thundered against her chest like a frantic bird trapped in a cage. Each whisper tugged at her mind. Each shadow corresponded with the cries of her children. Panic surged as she inhaled sharply, steeling herself against the suffocating dread. "Lily, we're waiting." Their voices were sweetened with longing, yet underlined with something sinister. It gnawed at her insides, dragging at the corners of her sanity. "No," she gasped, shaking her head as if she could physically shake off the fear. She took a step closer to the wardrobe. Its presence felt like an ancient beast ready to swallow her whole. But she couldn't let her children down. "Mommy, let's go play," a young voice chimed, its innocence mocking the obscured reality. It sent sharp pinpricks of anxiety racing throughout her body. What was happening? "Stop!" she shouted, clenching her fists tightly. "You're not my children!" The shadows recoiled, momentarily released, tinged with rage, morphing the whispers into a deafening roar. But that pierce of clarity was almost enough to anchor her. "Please," Mia's whimper through the haze. "We're scared." The icy fingers of darkness tightened around Lily, threatening to crush her spirit. She could feel them around her again, stirring the air. They were trying to ensnare her will, to hold her captive in despair. "Don't lose sight!" she screamed, her voice rising amidst the chaos. The shadows seemed to warp, the whispers crescendoed, an unbearable cacophony. Memories filled her mind, laughter, love, and the sense of summer. Memories that felt just out of reach, buried beneath layers of darkness. She could barely breathe. Then she felt it, a flicker of warmth within, a small glimmer of her resolve igniting. She remembered the stories she told her children about brave knights and fierce mothers who would do anything to protect their family. She was their knight, their warrior. But to fight, she had to make a choice rooted in hope instead of despair. Steeling her mind, she stepped back from the wardrobe, the harsh contrast heavy on her senses. "If you want me," she bellowed, raising her voice over the roar of darkness, "then bring my kids back." A silence sank like a weight over the room. For a heartbeat, the air trembled, shadows retreated like a receding tide. She felt the overwhelming force of desperation swell. "Where are they?" she demanded, the anguish boiling over. In an instant, the air crackled with energy, all-consuming. "Join us," came echoes from the shadows, their voices laced with temptation. "You'll never be alone again." "No," she shouted, the desperation bursting forth like a dam. "I refuse to abandon my children." With that declaration, a brilliant light blinded her senses, radiating warmth and spilling forth from the wardrobe. The figures surrounding her grew restless, frantically clawing at her resolve, but she saw through the flickering phantoms. A pair of small hands reached towards her from the blinding light. "Mom!" Mia's voice rang pure and clear. "Mommy, help us!" Jake echoed, his pure fear igniting Lily's heart. In that pivotal moment, everything shifted. Her determination surged as she lunged toward the light, shoving aside the tendrils of shadow that sought to grasp her. She felt their desperation clawing at her ankles, but she was fueled by the love for her children. "Don't let go! I'm coming!" she shouted, arms stretching towards the faces she loved, amidst the brightness overwhelming her vision. It filled her heart with invigorating courage. With one final push, she stepped past the boundaries and right into the light, bursting forth with a roar of unwavering love. As if the shadows were merely a storm cloud dissipating under the sun, they shrieked in rage, swirling off into nothingness. "Mama!" Mia's voice, now bright and clear, ruptured through the fading echoes. And there they were, her children, safe and sound, free from the clutches of darkness. She pulled them into her arms, the relief flooding her entirety, the warmth and love filling that void left by shadows. The room around them brightened, dust motes dancing in the rays of light that now filled the space. The whispers from the wardrobe grew faint, until they simply vanished. Holding her children close, she felt the hefty weight of fear lift like a heavy fog. "We did it," she whispered, tears streaming down her face, emotion and solace intertwining. "Thank you, Mommy," Mia breathed, her voice small yet vibrant with life. Jake squeezed his mother tightly, while Lily whispered a prayer of gratitude in the stillness that followed the storm. They had faced the shadows and emerged together. As they stood in their newfound sanctuary, Lily knew they could move forward, one step at a time. Life would not always be easy, but she had reclaimed the light. "Now let's get out of here," she said with a soft smile, and together they turned toward the open door, moving into the light of a new dawn. The storm was over, their nightmares fading into memory, and hope blossomed anew, a promise of brighter days ahead. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more fans just like you. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this ending. What did you think really happened in there? And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means the world. Let's grow this community together.